It's time to talk about everything there is to talk about Batman within DC Comics, although it's going to be kind of a short video because not much happens. We got a Detective Comics, the final issue of Shadows of the Bat, as well as Robin, the final issue before Shadow War happens. And essentially we have two fillers. Basically, they're both prologues.
Pretty much.
What do you think about this, Josh McDonald, Batman aficionado, DC aficionado?
It's it's an interesting week because if you ask me what did I think about this, I'm going to look at Detective Comics and I'm going to say it's better than it's been, which honestly isn't great, but it's just been so terrible that I'm happy that it's better than it's been. And then I look at Robin and I'm like, it's the worst issue we've had yet. So
and that issue was better than Detective Comics, I thought.
Yeah, I guess, sure.
They're comparable, but I still think it's better.
Yeah, there's not much substance in either of these issues.
So they overstuff almost every week with too much Batman. In the first week we have with only 2 Batman comics, although I guess Harley Quinn's out there if you wanted to count that one. But where he's going there, I've had my
vomited in my mouth a little bit.
Stephanie Phillips and Riley Rossmo. But, real Batman titles, there's just these two. Like, this is some poor planning. You're going to leave Batman fans with a poor taste in their mouth. So I guess we'll get right into Detective Comics 1058, the final issue of Shadows of the Bat. This is Mariko Tamaki and an artist not Ivan Rice. It doesn't look nearly as good as when it started. And I mean, for one of the more boring event stories I've ever read in my life, I guess it makes sense that this would be a prologue. This should have been 6 pages at the end of the last issue is what this comic issue should have been. But they decided to spread it out to 24 pages for no reason.
If you go back to when Shadows of the Bat first started and we were like 2 or 3 issues in, I had made a comment, there are some interesting plot threads here, but they're not being executed well. And then it just felt like it turned to shit. And then we got to this point and they touch on certain aspects of the book and they try to move some of these plots that should have, like you mentioned before, Shadows of the Bat should have been like a 4-issue, like you're done, thanks, see you later. But some of the stuff that they touched on here kind of leading out of that, I was like, okay, cool. Now I have this feeling like these are interesting plot threads if they're done correctly, but it's hard for me to care because it was so bad leading up to it. But I'm looking at it going, okay, I think I'm sort of interested in where they take this, but I have no faith at all that they're going to do it well.
Well, and the biggest part of this issue is the fate of Psycho Pirate. I didn't even know that was a big deal. Was I supposed to be caring about Psycho Pirate?
The idea that you have villains that want to go after Psycho Pirate, I'm okay with that. The fact that they're making it as big of a deal as they are after they just spent an issue and a half undermining Psycho Pirate, I don't understand what the point is. And then there's weird stuff in this issue, like Batman let Psycho Pirate go.
I thought he had him hidden in the Batcave or something.
Maybe, but he should just be in jail. Like, maybe I was so caught up with the fact of like, why isn't he in jail? Because that was my thought process. Why haven't we put him in jail? That I think
it's because Batman's going to use him in Detective Comics for a future story.
Probably. Do you see the excitement?
Well, you're very excited. I'm glad to see that. So we got the Psycho Pirate thing, and there's this really ludicrous moment where Batman apparently was dressed as Psycho Pirate. I don't think that worked out as well as it has in the past. It's actually quite stupid.
Yeah. Just to talk about that moment in particular, I thought it was really funny because you see Psycho Pirate sitting on a hotel bed and it looks like Psycho Pirate. Lean, he's got his costume on. And then you see that it's not Psycho Pirate, it's Batman. But now he's like quadrupled in size. He's only got Psycho Pirate's top, but not his pants. Like I laughed because it was done so poorly.
That was not a high point of the comic issue.
No, not at all.
There's also, I guess, Dr. Chase Meridian is a big deal now. She's got the ear of Mayor Nakano. It's like, why would he trust this person? Like, literally, the building that she was associated with and the adventure that she was associated with almost got his wife killed. A lot of people died. Like, he just lost a bunch of reputation. Oh, let me bring Chase Meridian back? Like, get out of here.
It's interesting because Chase Meridian was the one voice before, shit hit the fan at Arkham Tower that was like, wait, something's not right here. We need to investigate. And no one kind of listened with her, and they're like, no, just carry on, which, happens with big money, but whatever. Well, she was introduced at the end of Fear State, and when they introduced her, I was like, oh, cool, she's going to be a big deal. And then she was not a big deal through any of Shadows of the Bat. So I was like, well, this is a waste of a character. So I'm happy to see that they're actually going to do something with her. TBD, we'll see.
I guess the most interesting part about this, or what has the most potential impact long term, is the mayor's wife apparently is very traumatized with what happened in Arkham Tower. That seems to have been played out very well as far as the impact. You can see it, and everything actually makes sense with this part of the story. Mm-hmm. The fact that she's married to the mayor could definitely affect the entire Gotham City moving forward. So in that respect, I would say that part was well executed.
Yeah. If there's one thing that Mariko Tamaki does incredibly well, she writes supporting characters that aren't crucial to the plot for the most part incredibly well. You've got Deb Donovan. You disagree?
No, I think it's hilarious. The best thing that she can do is write characters that aren't a part of the story.
And that's what's crazy, though. You've got like Deb Donovan, you've got the mayor and his wife, and they're both becoming characters that I actually want to see more of. And it's just like her stories suck. So it's like, what do you do? It's like if you could take Mariko Tamaki and have her come fill in like certain panels and pages of every other Bat book to make it feel like a lived-in city with supporting characters, it would be a much better book.
Do you have anything else to say about Shadows of the Bat? I think it was a 4-issue story that should have never been sold as an event. If they would have contained it down to what it should have been, it probably wouldn't have been an embarrassment for Mariko Tamaki. But as far as her reputation in Detective Comics, yeah, you can't get rid of this one. This was your first big opportunity. I'd say it was a failure.
I would definitely say it was a failure. The only thing I would add is in this specific issue, I wish Huntress would have knocked Harley Quinn off the building. And I'll just leave it at that.
Personally, I would not recommend this story unless you were very interested and invested in Shadows of the Bat. If you needed a prologue, then I guess this is your comic book. If you could care less, do not read this because that's all it is. It's just tying a few bows on that one and in pushing a couple of plot threads forward, but they'll flesh those out there anyway. Now let's go over to Robin. We've got Joshua Williamson, the hardest working man at DC Comics.
Absolutely.
This time we've got Victor Cruz. Victor Cruz, that's a football player.
Roger Cruz.
Roger Cruz, there we go. We got Roger Cruz on art instead of the normal artist, Gleb Melnikov. This is also kind of a prologue issue to wrap up all the stuff that they did on Lazarus Island with the tournament and all the fighting, and they're moving us into Shadow War, which is going to be the Joshua Williamson crossover between Robin, Deathstroke, as well as Batman. Not a whole lot going on here. I think it is the weakest of the series so far. There is a cool moment with Damian thinking about resurrecting Alfred Pennyworth. That was certainly hinted in at the end of the last issue. I kind of like the way that one played out.
They teased it heavily that he was going to bring Alfred back in the end of the last issue, and I'm not going to lie, I got excited because I want Alfred back. But how they handled it was honestly done well, and it spoke highly of Damian and his thought process on it. It does subvert expectations a little bit, but in a good way, which is rare in comics. But I enjoyed that element of this book. The rest I didn't really enjoy.
Yeah, I'm with you. The rest of it was just kind of window dressing. We get a little bit of information regarding the duel between Ra's al Ghul, his mother, as well as his daughter Talia, and their competing interest in the way the story is moving forward. The only other interesting part really about the story, I guess, is the ending, the cliffhanger. Flatline actually kept Damian's heart when she ripped it out in the very first issue. And she kept that, and she's given it to her master now.
Yes, that was definitely. I didn't like that reveal because I want to like Punchline, and I do think we're gonna get a Punchline. Jesus Christ, I'm doing it again. Flatline. I want to like Flatline. Punchline can suck it. It wasn't what I wanted to see, but it does create some intrigue. You know, there's definitely a plan here. Lord Deathman has something going on, some scheme, and he wants the demon's heart. I'm curious. I'm intrigued. Let's see where it goes.
Certainly feels like it's been planned out. You know, obviously it's a reveal that happened from the very first issue, and then we're on issue 12. So this is some long-term planning, which gives me hope. We do know in a future issue after Shadows of the Bat that Damian and Flatline are actually going to go on some adventures together. I imagine there is going to be some romance and potentially a little bit of regret on her part for exposing Damian's heart like that to Lord Deathman.
Absolutely. Since the beginning, we've said we've wanted more of these like younger heroes and villains kind of working together because there's so much energy in that. And we know it's coming. We just have this kind of sidestep event first. And I will say, you mentioned that the big reveal here was that, but there's also a small reveal that for whatever reason, because they killed this demon, Ra's al Ghul cannot use
the Lazarus Pits.
Yeah, the Lazarus Pits anymore. So he is no longer eternal. So that will be a little interesting as well. But I'm looking forward to where this book goes. this issue was just the weakest one for me.
There's only one thing I truly didn't like about the issue, and that was actually Connor Hawk. I thought he was a cool add-in so far. He's been really brooding, came off as really dangerous. I don't know if it's the art or the dialogue in Connor Hawk when he interacts with Damian in this issue, but he doesn't seem all that dangerous anymore. You're like, why are you smiling like that? Why aren't you coming off as the most dangerous dude around anymore?
The art was not the best in this issue. It's not terrible, but it's not the best. But you get to see so much of what Gleb Melnikov can bring to the table with his work, as opposed to this, because there were multiple panels where the characters, either their expressions didn't match or their emotions were just flat. It was just, there was nothing there. So that hindered the story for me for a little bit, especially when there's no action or no plot really driving it.
I'm glad we're finally getting to the Shadow War crossover that we're getting with Joshua Williamson. I have faith that it's going to be much stronger than Shadows of the Bat that we're just getting out of. I don't want to read Detective Comics really anymore, but I guess I have to because it's the other Batman book. But Mariko Tamaki, I don't think did herself any favors. DC Comics did her no favors, making this a 12-issue event story because it certainly didn't live up to the hype and did not warrant the amount of marketing that it got behind. And 12 issues is a lot for one storyline. So
yeah,
glad it's over. Next week, we'll probably have too much Batman again, but it was kind of nice having an easy read, as long as you skip Harley Quinn, which I definitely suggest.
I suggest it as well. But hey, the easy read let me catch up on DC versus Vampires, which is pretty good.
As much as I don't really like Mariko Tamaki on Detective Comics, it could be worse. We could still have James Tynion on Batman. I'm very excited about Chip Zdarsky coming into the Batman series, replacing a very short run by Joshua Williamson. If you need a reminder or want to know everything that was wrong with James Tynion's Batman, well, I didn't have time, but here's 3 things that absolutely made his Batman run suck. Definitely check this out and definitely feel good that he ain't on Batman anymore.